Monster Creepypasta.
These are 3 scary creepypasta horror stories. Subscribe if you wish to stick around for more. You were walking down a foggy back-country road, the air damp and heavy as it clung to your skin. The faint glow of the moon struggled to pierce through the dense mist, leaving the world around you shrouded in an oppressive gray haze. Beside you, your lover clung to your arm, their laugh fading into nervous silence as the two of you moved farther away from the warm, lively chaos of the college party you attended. The sounds of music and laughter were long gone now, replaced by the rhythmic crunch of gravel underfoot. The road felt endless, a twisting path through nowhere, but you told me it was fine. You walked that route a dozen times before, and nothing bad ever happened out there. Still, the fog made everything feel off. The trees lining the road making shadows, their branches moving, making it feel like there were shadow figures moving in the dark. And every now and then, you swore you heard something rustling just out of sight. You weren't wrong, because that's when you saw him. At first, he was just a figure standing in the middle of the road, unmoving, almost statue-like. He was dressed in a black suit that looked too crisp, too clean for someone out there. His back was to you guys, his arms slightly raised at his sides, as if he were frozen mid-motion. Your lover tightened their grip on your arm. "What is he doing?" they whispered, their voice barely audible. You didn't answer. You didn't have an answer. Instead, you steered them gently to the opposite side of the road, quickening your pace. The figure didn't move, didn't turn, didn't even acknowledge your presence. For a moment, you thought it was fine. Just some weirdo out late at night. People are strange. But then something happened. Something so terrifying and impossible. You were maybe 30 or 40 feet away from him when a scream pierced the night. It wasn't just a scream. It was a raw, horrifying wail that seemed to tear through the fog and crawl into your skull. You and your lover froze, the sound making your blood run cold. Slowly, you turned to look back. He was no longer standing upright. The man was bent impossibly far backwards, his body contorted into a grotesque arc. His face was now visible, staring directly at you with wide, unblinking eyes, his mouth stretched open far too wide, the scream still pouring out of him, echoing through the fog. His limbs twitched unnaturally, like a marionette controlled by an unskilled hand, and then he ran at you. He shouldn't have been able to run in that position, but he did. He was fast, his movements jerky yet horrifyingly efficient, closing the distance between you and him in seconds. You didn't think. You grabbed your lover's hand, and the two of you bolted, adrenaline flooding your veins. The fog became thicker, the road ahead barely visible, but you didn't dare stop. Behind you, the man's screams grew louder, more agonized, as if every step he took caused him unbearable pain. Yet he didn't stop. The sound of his pursuit was relentless, the crunch of gravel under his feet, the ear-splitting wails that seemed to vibrate through your very bones. "Don't look back," you shouted, though you weren't sure if it was for your loved one or for yourself. You couldn't shake the feeling that if you did, if you so much as glanced over your shoulder, he'd be right there, inches away. It felt like an eternity before you saw the end of the road. A pair of headlights pierced through the fog, and you'd never been so relieved to see a car in your life. The vehicle slowed as the driver noticed you, and you and your better half frantically waved them down. You didn't even think twice about jumping into the stranger's car, slamming the door behind you. As the car pulled away, you looked out the rear window. The fog swallowed the road behind you, and the screams of the backwards man faded into the distance. For a moment, you allowed yourself to breathe, to believe that you were safe, but you weren't. The very next night, you were in your bedroom, trying to shake the image of the backwards man from your mind. Your lover was home, safe, and you locked every door and window in your house. Still, sleep didn't come easy. You kept replaying the events in your head, the sound of his screams, the sight of his unnatural body. You told yourself, it was over, he was gone. But then you heard something. A noise outside your window. Your heart stopped. It was faint at first, like the crunch of footsteps on gravel, but it grew louder and closer, trembling. You forced yourself to move. You turned on the outside light and pulled back the curtain. He was there. The backwards man stood in your yard, his back to you, motionless. His suit was pristine, untouched by dirt or grime, as if he'd just stepped out of another world. You didn't want to believe it. You couldn't believe it. But before you could react, his body contorted. He bent backwards, his face snapping into view, his eyes locking onto yours. His mouth opened, and the scream began again, louder this time, a deafening wail that rattled the glass of your window. And then he ran towards you. He sprinted towards your house, his movements unnatural and horrifying as before. Panic gripped you, and you stumbled back, tripping over your own 2 feet. The curtain fell back into place, but you could still hear him, his screams growing louder and closer. And then, silence. You sat there, your heart pounding, every muscle in your body tense. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Finally, you gathered the courage to peek out the window again, and thankfully, he was gone. They say the backwards man appears only at night, waiting on lonely backcountry roads for someone, anyone, to cross his path. Some claim he's the spirit of a man who died in unbearable agony, his spine snapped in a horrific accident. Others say he's something older, something inhuman, drawn to suffering and fear. If he catches you, he will bend you backwards too, breaking your spine with supernatural strength and leaving your body contorted in the same grotesque position. They say he does it so you can feel his pain, the endless torment that drives him to scream. No one knows how to escape him. No one knows why he chooses his victims. All they know is that if you hear his scream in the fog, you run. And you don't stop running, because the backwards man never stops. He'll chase you down the road, through the fog, to your home, and even into your dreams. And if you're not careful, he'll catch you. You've heard the stories, haven't you, about the disappearances in the woods? I know you have. But they're not just tales to scare campers or keep kids from wandering too far. It's real. I know, because you told me what happened to you. It started when you joined a group of hunters to track down whatever was behind the vanishings near your hometown. People had been disappearing for generations. Hikers, hunters, even seasoned rangers. The few remains they found were shredded like confetti, as though something monstrous had feasted on them. You told me how you didn't believe it at first. Not really, but the fear in your neighbor's eyes was enough to convince you to go. You were 5 strong, armed to the teeth with rifles, knives, and even courage to help you continue. You thought you'd be facing a bear, maybe a rogue mountain lion. But the moment you stepped into that forest, you knew something was wrong. You said it was too quiet, no birds, no crickets, not even the sound of leaves blowing in the trees. Just the sound of your boots crunching against the earth, and the creeping sense that something was watching you. The first night, you and your companions camped near an old decrepit cabin. It stank of mold and rot, the roof sagging under the weight of many years of neglect, and around the fire, you all tried to laugh off the tension. One of the guys, maybe a man named Jim, cracked jokes about the ghosts of the woods. Everyone chuckled, but you admitted to me it was forced. Nobody really believed the stories. Not yet. And then a guy named Peter, who was off relieving himself, screamed. It was sharp, sudden, and heart-stopping. You told me how you dropped your food and grabbed your rifle, running toward the sound. But by the time you got there, Peter was gone. No tracks, no blood, just his flashlight lying in the dirt, still on. And that was the moment when you saw the eyes. Thousands of them, scattered across the darkness. They shimmered, reflecting the faint firelight, blinking in eerie unison. They were small, black, and glowing across the treetops, the underbrush, even the forest floor. You said it felt like the forest itself was staring at you, alive and aware. You told me how Jim whispered, "What the hell is that?" right before it emerged. It stepped out of the shadows, and the forest seemed to bend around it, hiding its true shape. At first, you thought it was just part of the woods, branches, moss, bark. But then its fur shifted, a deep brown that blended perfectly with the trees, but also changing colors with the environment. And its mouth. You said its mouth opened wider than anything you'd ever seen, rows of pointed razor-sharp teeth glinting in the dim light. It moved fast, extremely fast, for something so massive. Before anyone could react, it was on Jim. You watched, frozen, as it grabbed him, pulled him into that carnivorous mouth. The sound of bones snapping and flesh tearing haunts you to this day, like a nightmare you have to live with, even when awake. The blood sprayed everywhere, painting the trees red. That's when you ran. You all ran, blindly crashing through the underbrush. You told me how it didn't chase you immediately. It let you think you had escaped, toyed with you like a cat with a mouse. But you could still feel its eyes on you, could hear its heavy, deliberate steps somewhere out there in the dark. The next few days was a nightmare. One by one, it picked your companions off. You tried setting traps, doubling back, even splitting up. None of it mattered. You told me about the screams, the horrible, gut-wrenching screams as your friends were dragged into the shadows, and the sound of it feeding, the crunching, the slurping, like it was savoring every bite. By the end, it was just you. You said you didn't sleep for days, too terrified to close your eyes. The forest became a maze, and every step felt like it might be your last. Your clothes were in tatters, your body battered and bruised. When the Rangers found you, you barely recognized them as human. They said you were muttering nonsense, eyes wide with terror. But the worst part, you told me, wasn't surviving. It was what came after. When the Rangers brought you back, you told them everything. You didn't care if they thought you were crazy. But then the suits showed up, government agents, cold and emotionless. They listened, and then they told you to shut up. They said you imagined it, that you were delirious. They threatened you for about an hour, warned you that if you spoke a word of this to anyone, you'd regret it. For years, you kept quiet. You tried to forget, to move on, but you couldn't, because it tore at you. The nightmares, the guilt, it's all still there. You told me because you couldn't keep it in anymore. And now that I know, I believe you. Even if half of what you've said is true, then people need to be warned. That thing is still out there, hiding in the woods, blending in, waiting. If you ever go into those woods and you feel like the trees are watching, like the forest is alive and breathing, run. Don't stop. Don't look back, because if it sees you, if it wants you, there's nothing that can save you from its hunger. It started when your older sister came back from a camping trip with her friends. You remember how excited she'd been before she left, packing her bags while humming that annoying pop song she always played on repeat. She was your sister, always smiling, always joking around, the kind of person who could make a rainy day feel sunny. But when she came back, she wasn't the same. At first, it wasn't obvious to anyone else. She still smiled, still laughed, still told jokes she normally did, but you could see that something was off, a bit weird, like someone else was wearing your sister's face but forgetting how she was supposed to act. She started standing in corners. That was the first thing you noticed. You'd been sitting in the living room with your parents watching TV or eating dinner, and there she'd be, just standing there. Not talking, not moving, just watching. Her smile was still there, stretched across her face like it was stuck, but her eyes didn't match. They were cold, unblinking, and locked on whoever was in the room, especially you. You tried pointing it out to your parents, but they brushed it off. She's just playing around, they said. She's just messing with you. But you knew better. Then came the creepy nights. The first time it happened, you thought you were dreaming. You felt the weight on your bed shift, so you opened your eyes just a crack. There she was, sitting at the edge of your mattress, staring at you. Her smile hadn't changed, but now it looked wrong, too wide, too unnatural. You froze, keeping your eyes half shut, pretending to be asleep. She didn't move. She just sat there, staring at you. Hours passed. You could hear the clock on your nightstand ticking away the seconds. You could feel your heart pounding so hard you were sure it was vibrating the bed. But she never moved, just sat there, smiling. This became a routine. Every night she'd come into your room, sit on your bed and watch you. She never spoke, never touched you, just watched. One night you couldn't take it anymore. You stayed awake until she left, and the moment she was gone you locked your door. But even then you didn't feel safe from her. By then, you knew it could not have been a prank on you. It wasn't just the watching, it was the other things. Like how she'd whisper under her breath when she thought no one could hear, words you didn't understand, low and inaudible, like language not meant for humans to understand. Or how you'd catch her staring at knives in the kitchen drawer, her hand hovering just a little too long over the handles. And then there was the day you followed her. You woke up to the sound of the front door creaking open. It was 9 a.m., and everyone else was still asleep. But not her. You crept out and peeked through the window just in time to see her disappearing into the woods behind your house. You didn't know why you followed her. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was fear. Either way, you slipped on your shoes and went out after her, staying just far enough behind she wouldn't hear you. The woods were eerily silent, like all animals and insects were hiding from something. You stumbled over roots and branches, trying to keep her in sight. That's when you saw her stop. She stood in a small clearing, the sunlight illuminating her. You crouched behind a tree, holding your breath as you watched. At first, nothing happened. She just stood there, her head tilted back, like she was looking at the sky. Then she started convulsing. Her body jerked and twisted in ways that shouldn't have been possible, her limbs bending backwards, her neck snapping to one side. And then she vomited. It wasn't normal. It wasn't bile or food or anything that came from her mouth. It was an entire person, or at least something that looked like one at first. The thing hit the ground with a wet thud, its body twitching as it unfolded itself. It was thin, almost skeletal, with skin the color of moss and long, jagged claws. Its eyes were bright burning red, and when it opened its mouth, you saw rows of needle-like fangs. You clamped a hand over your mouth to keep from screaming. The creature stood there for a moment, swaying on its feet before it started to change. Its limbs shortened, its skin shifted, and within seconds, it looked human. Not just human, but just like your sister. It was your sister, naked, hair matted with sweat, but undeniably her. You watched as your sister, no, the creature walked further into the woods, its steps slow and deliberate. When it was gone, you ran to your real sister. She was lying on the ground unconscious, her clothes soaked with sweat. You shook her awake, and when her eyes opened, she looked at you like she didn't recognize you at first. "What happened?" she asked, her voice hoarse. You lied. You told her she fainted in the woods, that you found her and woke her up. She didn't question it. When you both got home, she told you about the camping trip, about the dream she had, that you knew wasn't a dream. She told you about the thing that climbed into her tent, wrapped itself around her, and melted into her skin. It wasn't just a nightmare, she said, but you knew better. Traumatized by what you had experienced, yet remaining to keep what you saw to yourself until telling me, you still to this day lock your bedroom door, hoping that your sister doesn't try to come in at night. But sometimes you wonder, what happened to that creature, the one that took your sister's form? What was it? All you know is that somehow it got into your sister's body, where it replicated her appearance down to a T, then vanished into the forest. You or I both don't know what that thing could have been, but if you were to ask me, well, I'll just tell you that I don't want to know.